In a small, quiet town, there lived a woman named Maria. She was not like the other people in the town. People often looked at her with fear or sadness. Whenever Maria walked down the streets, people would quickly move away. Some would even cross to the other side of the road so they would not be near her. The children were told not to go near her house. People said many things about Maria, but most of those things were not true. Still, the fear stayed in their hearts. Maria was a woman with a calm face, but her eyes told stories of pain and loneliness. Her hair was long and dark, sometimes a little messy because she did not care much about how she looked. Her clothes were old, and she did not follow fashion like others. She lived alone in a small house at the edge of the town. Her house was surrounded by tall trees, and the garden was wild with flowers growing everywhere without order. People whispered about her in the market and at the cafe. Some said she was unlucky, and bad things happened when she was near. Others said she might be dangerous, although no one really knew why. No one had ever spoken to Maria for more than a minute or two, and those who did usually stopped quickly and walked away. There was a deep silence around her, like an invisible wall kept her apart from the rest of the world. Despite this, Maria tried to live her life quietly. Every morning she would step outside her house and water the flowers in her garden. She loved the flowers because they were free and beautiful, unlike the cold looks she received from people. Sometimes she would sit by the window and watch the town's children play, wishing she could join them but knowing they would never invite her. One day, a little girl named Anna was playing near Maria's house. The ball she was playing with accidentally rolled into Maria's garden. Anna was scared to go in and get it because she had heard the stories about Maria. The other children laughed and told Anna not to touch anything near Maria's home. But Anna was curious. She watched Maria from a distance and saw how gently she cared for the plants. Slowly, Anna took a small step into the garden. Her heart was beating fast, but she wanted her ball. Maria noticed Anna and smiled softly. It was the first time anyone smiled at Anna in a way that made her feel safe. Maria carefully picked up the ball and handed it back to Anna. "Here you go," she said kindly. Anna felt warm inside and smiled back. After that day, Anna told her mother about Maria, but she did not tell the whole truth. She said, "Maria is not scary. She is nice and kind." Her mother was surprised, but warned Anna to be careful. Other people in the town were still afraid, but Anna did not feel that fear. She started to visit Maria's garden more often, helping her water the flowers and talking about small things. Maria felt happy to have a little company. It was the first time in many years someone had chosen to stay near her, not because they were forced to, but because they wanted to. She told Anna stories about the flowers and the birds that visited her garden. Anna listened carefully and loved to learn from Maria. Their friendship grew slowly but surely. Still, many people in the town watched them and shook their heads. They did not understand why Anna would want to be friends with someone like Maria. They whispered to each other, "She is different. You should stay away." This made Anna confused sometimes. She asked her mother, "Why are they scared of Maria? She is kind." Her mother had no good answer and said, "Sometimes people fear what they do not understand." Maria also wondered why people feared her so much. She remembered the days when she used to smile without worry and walk freely, without anyone moving away. But those days were long ago. Many years before, Maria had faced a terrible accident. A fire had broken out in her home, and she had been badly hurt trying to save her family. She survived, but with many scars on her body and a heavy sadness in her heart. Because of the scars, people looked at her differently. They did not see the woman who was brave and strong, but only the marks on her skin. Maria wished she could tell them her story, but no one would listen. The fear in the town was stronger than their curiosity. So she stayed quiet, keeping her story locked inside. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Maria and Anna's friendship became the little light in Maria's life. Anna learned to see Maria as a real person with feelings, hopes, and dreams. She learned that Maria was not scary or unlucky, but a woman who had been hurt and needed a friend. The townspeople, however, still feared Maria. They stayed away and avoided looking at her. But Anna did not. She taught others what she had learned from Maria. Slowly, some children started to play near Maria's garden, watching how gentle she was with the flowers and animals. Though the fear did not disappear completely, cracks started to show in the wall of silence around Maria. Maria felt hope for the first time in many years. She believed that maybe one day the whole town would see her the way Anna did, as a human being deserving of kindness and friendship. Until that day, she kept watering her flowers, smiling at the sky, and waiting patiently for someone else to dare to come close. In this small town, where fear ruled the hearts of many, one small girl's courage and kindness began to change everything. Maria was no longer just the woman everyone feared. She was becoming someone who mattered. The fear that people in the town felt about Maria was not just because of her appearance. There was a deeper reason behind it, something that many people whispered quietly but did not want to say out loud. Long ago, before Maria became the woman everyone avoided, she had lived a different life. People in the town did not know the full story, but they had heard pieces of it, stories that made them afraid. Many years ago, Maria had been happy and full of life. She had a family that loved her and a home filled with laughter. But then, one terrible night changed everything. A fire had broken out in her house. The flames were fierce and the smoke was thick. Maria had tried to save her family, but the fire was too strong. She was badly hurt, and her family was lost in the fire. The town never forgot that night. After the fire, Maria's face and body were covered with scars. The scars told a story of pain and survival, but the townspeople only saw the marks and not the courage behind them. To them, Maria became a reminder of that tragic night, a night that brought sadness to the whole town. Some believed that Maria brought bad luck, and they wanted to stay far away so that the sadness would not touch them. Because of this fear, people stopped talking to Maria. Her friends left her, and even strangers turned their backs. Maria felt the coldness of loneliness. It was hard for her to walk through the streets without feeling eyes watching her with suspicion or fear. She tried to explain her story, but no one wanted to listen. The town had made up its mind, and the fear was stronger than the truth. Children were told by their parents to never go near Maria's house. "She is different," they said. "Stay away from her." Even the teachers at school warned the children. This made Maria's life even harder. She wanted to be part of the community, but the community wanted nothing to do with her. Maria's heart was full of sadness, but she never gave up. She understood why people were afraid. She knew that her scars were hard to look at and that the story behind them was painful. But she hoped that one day someone would see beyond her scars and understand who she really was. Maria's house at the edge of town became her safe place. She spent most of her days there, taking care of the garden she loved so much. The flowers were a way for her to bring beauty into a world that seemed cold and dark. She felt peace when she was with the plants. They did not judge her or fear her. They simply grew and blossomed under her care. One afternoon, as Maria was planting new flowers, a group of children passed by. They looked at her with wide eyes and whispered to each other. Maria could hear their voices, but she did not look up. She was used to the whispers and the stares. Instead, she focused on her flowers, hoping to finish before the sun went down. Suddenly, one of the children dropped something on the ground near Maria. It was a small toy car. A little boy named Tom wanted to pick it up, but he was scared. He remembered the warnings from his mother. "Don't go near Maria," she had said. But Tom was curious. He took a small step forward and then stopped. Maria noticed the boy and smiled softly. "You can take your toy," she said gently. Tom was surprised to hear her speak without anger or sadness. He walked slowly to her and picked up the toy car. Maria handed it back to him with kindness. This small moment was important. It showed that Maria was not the person people thought she was. She was kind and gentle, even after all the pain she had faced. The children started to talk about this moment. Some of them told their parents, but the adults still held on to their fear. Maria began to think about how fear can stop people from seeing the truth. She remembered the fire, the loss, and the long years of loneliness. But she also remembered the moments when someone showed her kindness, even if it was just a smile or a wave from a distance. Those moments gave her hope. One day, a woman from the town came to visit Maria. She was an older woman named Helen who had known Maria before the fire. Helen wanted to understand Maria's story better. She sat with Maria and listened as Maria quietly told her what had happened that night. Helen was moved by Maria's courage and strength. She realized that the town had judged Maria too quickly and unfairly. Helen decided to help Maria. She told others in the town about Maria's story, hoping to change their minds. But changing fear is not easy, and many people still stayed away. Maria was grateful for Helen's support, but she knew that true change would take time. It would need more people to see her as she really was, a woman who had survived terrible loss and still cared deeply for others. In the evenings, Maria would sit by her window and look at the stars. She wondered if anyone up there could see her pain and her hope. The stars seemed far away, but they were a reminder that there was more to life than fear and loneliness. Despite the fear that surrounded her, Maria did not stop dreaming. She dreamed of a day when she could walk through the town without being afraid or avoided. She dreamed of friendship and laughter. She dreamed of being accepted. And so Maria lived her days quietly, holding on to hope even when the world around her was full of fear. She cared for her garden, smiled at the small kindnesses, and waited for someone brave enough to see her true self. The story of Maria showed how fear can build walls between people, but it also showed how courage and kindness, even from one person, could start to break those walls down. One day, a man named James moved into the town. James was new, and no one knew much about him. He was different from the others because he did not seem to care about the stories or rumors that everyone whispered about Maria. When he first saw Maria working in her garden, he did not feel fear or discomfort. Instead, he saw a woman who cared for her flowers with love and patience. James had lived in many places before, and he had learned something very important. People often fear what they do not understand. Instead of following the crowd and staying away from Maria, James decided to get to know her. At first, the townspeople were surprised to see him talk to Maria. Some even warned him. "Be careful," they said. "She is not like us." But James ignored their warnings. He believed that everyone deserved kindness and a chance to be known. One afternoon, he walked up to Maria's garden and greeted her with a friendly smile. "Hello," he said. "My name is James. I just moved here." Maria looked up, surprised to hear a kind voice. No one had spoken to her like that in a long time. She smiled softly and said, "Hello, James. I'm Maria." From that day, James started visiting Maria's garden often. He would bring small gifts, like fresh bread or a book, and they would sit and talk. At first, Maria was shy and quiet, but James was patient. He never rushed her to share her story. He just listened when she wanted to speak and kept her company when she preferred silence. James noticed that Maria was very wise. She knew a lot about plants, birds, and the stars. She told stories about her childhood and the dreams she once had. Listening to her made James respect her even more. He saw not the scars on her skin, but the strength in her heart. The people of the town watched from a distance. Some were curious, and some were still afraid. They could not understand why James would spend so much time with Maria. But James did not care about their opinions. He believed in Maria's goodness, and that belief gave her hope. One evening, when the sun was setting and the sky was painted with beautiful colors, James helped Maria water her flowers. The warm light made the garden look magical. Maria looked at James and said, "Thank you for being my friend." James smiled and replied, "You don't have to thank me. Everyone deserves a friend." As the days passed, their friendship grew stronger. James helped Maria with small tasks around the house. He fixed the broken fence, cleaned the windows, and even helped plant new flowers in the garden. Maria felt joy that she had not felt in a long time. One day, a strong wind blew through the town, breaking branches from trees and scattering leaves everywhere. Maria's garden was messy and some flowers were damaged. James came quickly to help. Together, they cleaned the garden and fixed what was broken. Working side by side, they laughed and shared stories. It was a simple day, but for Maria, it was full of happiness. The friendship between Maria and James began to change the way some people in the town thought. Slowly, a few children started to visit Maria's garden more often, encouraged by James's example. They saw how kind Maria was and how beautiful her garden had become with love and care. Maria started to believe that maybe one day the whole town would accept her. James's kindness showed her that people could change, and that fear did not have to control their lives. But even with all this hope, Maria was still careful. She knew that not everyone was ready to welcome her. She had been hurt before and did not want to be disappointed again. James understood this and never pushed her too hard. He knew that trust takes time. One afternoon, James invited Maria to visit the town's small cafe. Maria was nervous at first. She had never been inside the cafe with others watching her. But James held her hand gently and said, "You don't have to be afraid. I will be with you." Inside the cafe, some people stared, but James smiled at them and said, "This is Maria. She is my friend." Slowly, some people nodded and smiled back. It was a small step, but for Maria, it was a big moment. After that day, Maria felt braver. She started to go to the market and the cafe with James by her side. The town was still, learning to accept her, but the fear was beginning to fade. James's friendship taught Maria something very important, that she was not alone. There was someone who saw her true self and cared for her just as she was. This gave Maria strength to face each new day with hope. Their friendship was not just about two people. It was about breaking the wall of fear that separated Maria from the town. It was about showing others that kindness and understanding can heal even the deepest wounds. Maria and James continued to grow closer. They shared many quiet moments in the garden, watched sunsets together, and dreamed about the future. Maria felt her heart open again, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled with happiness. The story of Maria and James became a symbol of hope in the town, a reminder that even in a world full of fear, one person's courage and kindness can make all the difference. Maria had spent many years feeling alone and afraid because of the way people treated her. But with James by her side, something inside her began to change. One day, after a long walk in the garden, Maria felt tired and sad. The memories of the fire and the loneliness sometimes came back to her like dark clouds. She sat down on a wooden bench under a big tree, holding her hands tightly in her lap. James noticed that Maria looked tired and worried. He quietly sat next to her. Without saying a word, he reached out and gently took her hand in his. It was A small and simple touch, but it was full of warmth and care. Maria felt a strange feeling she had not felt in a long time. Comfort. Her heart began to calm down, and a soft smile appeared on her face. That touch was more powerful than anything else. It told Maria that she was not alone, that someone cared deeply for her. For years, people had avoided her, but James was the first person to reach out without fear or hesitation. The touch helped her to believe that she could be loved and accepted just as she was. The next days were different. Maria felt stronger. She began to open up more to James, sharing stories from her past that she had kept hidden for so long. She told him about her family, her dreams, and the pain she had carried inside. James listened carefully, never interrupting or judging. His presence made her feel safe, like she could finally breathe again. Word started to spread in the town about James and Maria. People saw them together and began to wonder about the changes they noticed in Maria. She was smiling more, walking, with confidence and even talking with others. Some townsfolk were surprised and curious. They began to question their own fears and the stories they had believed for so long. One afternoon, a few children who had been watching from a distance gathered near Maria's garden. They asked Maria if they could help her care for the flowers. Maria smiled warmly and said yes. She taught them how to water the plants gently and explained the names of the flowers. The children listened with excitement and joy. Slowly, the garden became a place where people gathered, not avoided. Maria's kindness and patience helped the town to change. People started to realize that the fear they had felt was based on misunderstanding and old stories. They saw that Maria was a good person who deserved friendship and respect. James continued to be Maria's friend, supporting her every step of the way. He encouraged others to get to know her, breaking down the walls of fear that had separated her from the community. Because of him, the town began to heal, and Maria's life began to fill with hope. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, James and Maria sat together in the garden. The sky was a beautiful mix of pink and orange. Maria looked at James and said, "You have given me a gift that no one else could. Your kindness and your touch. You helped me believe in myself again." James smiled and replied, "You are strong, Maria. You have always been strong. I only helped you see it." The simple touch that James had given Maria changed everything. It showed that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can heal the deepest wounds. It taught the town that fear can be replaced with love and understanding. From that day on, Maria walked through the town without fear. People smiled and greeted her. Children played in her garden. She was no longer the woman everyone feared, but a beloved member of the community. Maria's story became a powerful example of how kindness and courage can change lives. It reminded everyone that true strength comes from the heart and that no one should ever be judged by their past or their scars. The power of a simple touch showed the world that healing is possible when someone dares to care. Maria's life was transformed not just because she was touched, but because she was finally seen, accepted, and loved. After many years of fear and loneliness, Maria's life finally began to change. The kindness James had shown her was like a light in the darkness. It made her believe that people could see the real her, not the scars, not the stories, but the person inside. Slowly, the town began to change too. At first, it was only a few people who came to talk to Maria. Then more started to visit her garden and her home. They brought small gifts like fresh fruit or homemade bread. Some came just to sit and listen to Maria's stories. She shared her past with honesty and courage, and people admired her strength. The children who once feared Maria now played happily near her house. They learned about the flowers and birds from her. Maria taught them how to care for the world around them. The children loved spending time with her because she was kind and patient. The adults in the town began to realize how wrong they had been to fear Maria. They saw that their judgments had hurt her deeply. Some came to apologize for their behavior. Maria forgave them because she understood that fear often makes people act in ways they don't want to. One day, the mayor of the town visited Maria. He wanted to officially welcome her as an important part of the community. He thanked her for her patience and courage. The town held a small celebration in Maria's honor, with music, food, and laughter. It was the first time Maria had felt truly accepted. Maria looked around at the smiling faces and felt a deep happiness in her heart. She thought about how much had changed since the days when everyone feared her. She was no longer alone. She was loved and respected. James stood beside Maria, proud and happy to see his friend shine. Their friendship had not only changed Maria's life, but had also helped the whole town become a better place. People learned that kindness and understanding can break down walls and build new connections. Maria's story became well known in the nearby villages, too. People came to hear about the woman who was once feared but was now celebrated. They wanted to learn from her and from the town that had changed. Maria continued to care for her garden, which had become a symbol of hope and growth. She planted new flowers every spring, reminding herself and others that life can bloom again, even after the hardest times. She often thought about the simple touch that had started it all, the touch from James that showed her she was not alone. That one moment of kindness had changed everything. Maria also knew that her journey was not only about herself. It was about teaching others to look beyond fear and to see the good in people. She wanted the world to understand that everyone deserves a chance to be loved and accepted. The town was different now. People smiled more, helped each other, and welcomed strangers with open hearts. They remembered Maria's story as a lesson in compassion. Maria lived the rest of her days surrounded by friends and kindness. She had found peace and happiness after a long time of pain. Her life was proof that fear can be overcome, and that love can heal even the deepest wounds. Her story stayed in the hearts of the people forever, a true example of hope, courage, and the power of human kindness.